Hello people on YouTube, what's up? I am bringing you my review of the Sandglass Ergo, which is a TKL Alice form factor that was available for $525, but realistically $600 with shipping. And it's a very interesting board. Here you can see my beige variant. They came in ecoat beige as well as anno silver, blue, and black. And of course, I had to go for the beige. It comes with a very sexy but impractical wrist rest. And the case itself has no weights because the keyboard alone is about 3 kilos and about 4 kilos with the wrist rest. It's a fairly complex keyboard and it is screwless by using a three-piece design. It's a keyboard. So before we get into it, this is my own personal unit. I bought this with my monies. I like this board very much. It's got a lot of problems. We're going to talk about those. And this was run by Foxlab, the guy that made the Pizza 80 and the Leaf 60 and the Time 80. He really likes numbers. And the Sandglass. It's a pretty neat board. I like it very much. Front height sits low and comfy at about 21 millimeter. And yeah, let's roll the intro and then talk about the unboxing experience. Alrighty, here we are. Here's the Sandglass. And before we talk about the actual keyboard, let's talk about the unboxing experience. So here is the box that the Sandglass came in. It did not do well during shipping. This box was inside another box, which was form-fitted to the original box. And for some reason, this box still got really messed up. So I think one of the corners is broken. On the inside, I can kind of see what looks like some moisture damage. Might be hard to pick up on camera. Kind of looks like veins in the cardboard. Like the thickness is pretty good, but just the way that it arrived felt terrible. Also, this corner is blown out. I think this is like from a TV or something. And the keyboard came in here with a large, very large microfiber cloth. And that was it. That was the whole thing. I mean, you guys know my thoughts on packaging as a whole. The only reason why I still have this box is for this review. As soon as this review is done, I'm going to throw this box in the garbage where it belongs because boxes are literally garbage. I would have loved to have a hard case. I would have really loved to have a hard case, especially when it comes to trying to take something like this to the office. This doesn't fit in any hard case, so I've been just like wrapping it up in bubble wrap and sticking it in a backpack. That is a great way to absolutely ruin the finishing on your keyboard, especially if it's ecoat. So yeah, kind of disappointing from a packaging perspective. I mean, what can I say? All right, let's actually have a look at the board itself now. There it is. As you can very clearly see, it is a Alice-inspired TKL form factor. It's pretty good, you know. You'll notice some weirdness to it. I mean, first of all, you've got your F-row split between the F6 and the F7, which is great because that's the exact center of the F-row. However, if you're used to pressing escape where escape should be, you're going to be pressing a lot of F1. So, yeah. The nice thing is it does have the 3 keys here, similar to the Alice, the EM7, EM8, etc. And the stagger is fairly standard. The tent is exactly the same as an Alice, but the spread is further than an Alice. As a result, I find this more comfortable to type on than the Alice. All right. Let's take a look at the case. As you can see, this is ecoat. Let's get a nice little close-up right there. Check that out. It's very beige. The issue with this beige is in some lights, just to my own eyes, not necessarily the cameras, but to my own eyes, in a lot of lights, this does tend to be a little pinkish. And sometimes it'll come off like a very creamy peach color, like very subtly, right? Uh, the whole thing is ecoat. This bit right here is anodized, which is cool. It's a little piece, it's a little accent. So finishing wise, it's ecoat. Ecoat isn't really judged the same way as anodization is, because anodization, you're trying to look for how homogeneous it is across the entire board. You're looking out for striping, splashing, marks on the underlying aluminum itself. However, with ecoat, it's ecoat. It's fine. It's going to be a single color. It's basically it's electrically painted, which, to be fair, so is anodization. But yeah, it's very, very consistent, very nice beige, and my camera's really struggling with it for some obscure reason. What are you trying to focus on, dude? All right, there you go. Yeah, the beige is good, but this is ecoat. Ecoat is not robust. Ecoat is really not robust. Ecoat will scratch a lot easier than anodization. It'll chip a lot easier than anodization. Like, if I were to go hard on this with just my fingernails, I'm pretty sure I could remove some of the ecoat. That's not a problem with this keyboard. That's just a problem with ecoat as a whole. The color is nice. I would have liked if it was a more neutral beige instead of kind of leaning towards pinkish, orangish, but what can you do? It's kind of hard to nail a good beige. I do love beige, which is why I went for this particular beige model. And I do like it, okay? I'm going to spend a lot of this review talking about what's wrong with this keyboard, but it comes from a place of love because I absolutely love this. I love the form factor. I love the color. I love the weight. I love the feel in the hand. I love a lot of things. So the design is wild. Like, very clearly, a lot of work went into this. And normally, the first part of the keyboard review, we tour the externals. But the externals are so complex. As you can tell, there are no screws here. It is screwless. And unlike a lot of other screwless boards, you cannot actually see the screws from the top because they're well hidden. Amazing. It's almost like if you try, you can make a good screwless board. So yeah, the screws are like really well hidden and they sit really, really deep in the case. The case is actually 3 parts. You have the top case, you have the bottom case, which is screwed into the top case, and then you've got the mid piece. And the mid piece is a lot larger than you think it is. Like, essentially, it is possible for me to remove this bottom and still have a full keyboard, essentially. But there'll be a lot of screws there. So we'll tour the externals, but when we get into the internals, there's a lot of stuff to look for. But a good amount of work went into this. I mean, first of all, those feet. Those are nice feet, custom made, very nice. They haven't slid off. They're nice and sticky. They're very rubbery. Pretty good. Here on the center of the bottom, we see a little brand right there. Quite cute. The case itself is seamless. So that means from the bottom, you can see the bottom piece, but from the top, you don't necessarily see that there's a top and bottom. So right there, no seam, very simple. From a design perspective, I like the design overall. This kind of angular cut, I'm not the biggest fan of. From a design perspective, like, this gets a little pointy if you're trying to grab it from there sometimes, but to be fair, all the surfaces are properly filleted or filleted, depending on if you're hungry or not. But let's check that out nice and close. So Edges are relatively soft, but a little on the sharp side. Not Geonworks F1 sharp, but still a little sharp. You know, it's the design itself that's a little sharp, but nice and clean, kind of soft. Edges are rounded, as they should be. Yeah. And this whole bit is one large curve, as opposed to the more pointy Alice's like the Praxis and the other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head. So yeah, here on the back, we have a nearly flush USB port and a little engraving, which says Sandglass. Let's get up in there and check that out. Very dark, very hard to make out, but I promise it does say Sandglass, and I wish anything would focus today. See that? Sandglass. And the port is solid. I can pretty much get it in the hole first try every time. It doesn't conflict with larger connectors like I tend to use. So it's nice to work with. And there is some plate drift. So on a gasket board, you'll have some degree of plate drift. Even on a top mount board, you'll have some degree of plate drift. And what I'm talking about is that. So there's quite a bit of movement. More so on the left side, right here, than on the right side. So this is just a consequence of how the mounting is done. The solution to this is to have harder mounts, but then you're going to get a not as bouncy of a typing experience. I don't know. It's not really annoying, but sometimes, for example, if I'm commuting with this and I take it to the office and I sit down, I see that, like, you know, this plate is like that and this plate is like that. So I have to just manually like move it with my hands into place and then type on it, essentially. Does it annoy me? Yeah. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. All right. You may notice that this keyboard actually came with a wrist rest. The wrist rest looks absolutely amazing. It is 2 pieces of aluminum. You've got the black part and the beige part, and they kind of sit flush against one another. The feet on this are very good. The issue is this is made out of aluminum, and it's ecoat. So if you're going to use this improperly, because using a wrist rest properly is you type with your hands floating above your keyboard, and when you're not typing, you rest your wrists. Typing like this is terrible. You do not keep your wrists on the wrist rest as you type. That is a great way to damage your wrists, especially if it's a solid block of aluminum. This thing is ice cold. Those of you that may not know, aluminum is pretty thermally conductive. So when you put your wrists on it, it will literally suck the heat out of your hands, and your wrists will be freezing within 10 seconds. That is not a wrist rest experience I'd like to have. But let's say that's not even a problem. I would take this to the office and I wear a watch. That watch has metal on it. This is ecoat. I don't need to tell you how that's a terrible, terrible combination. So I have to, if I'm using the wrist rest, continually take off my watch and put it to the side, type, and then like potentially rest my wrists for 3 seconds before they get ice cold. This could have been done in a plastic. This should have been done in a plastic. From a value perspective, very cool, $600 board, comes with very nice, expensive wrist rest. Fine. But it's unusable. It looks very pretty, you know, and that's pretty much where it ends. The wrist rest is pretty and has no other redeeming qualities. It is completely useless. It makes your board not look weird when you put it on here, and I guess that's cool. So let's finish up with the wrist rest. There is a piece of rubber here that the user installs to make it so you can do this without stripping your ecoat. And it's got some feet, and that's it, and it's terrible. Let's get a weight on this because I'll want a full weight of the board plus the wrist rest later. We might as well do that now. All right. The wrist rest is 1,150 grams, give or take. That's 1,150 grams. That is the weight of like a 60%. And then we've got this, which is exactly 3 kilos minus 1 gram. So the combo is about 4.1 kilos. It's heavy. It's heavy. Now, I have not mentioned it, but this is all aluminum. There is a reason why this is all aluminum. There is no reason to put a weight in this. It's already very heavy. And from a acoustic perspective, I don't think brass would save it either. So, yep. So those are my thoughts on the outside, I guess. And we can take a look at the inside. Now, taking this apart is a challenge. Because one, you have to remember where the screws are. And I have no idea where the screws are. So very often, you got to remove a lot of the caps. Unfortunately, when you try to remove the caps, you also remove the switch. Because this board only came in hot swap when it was sold at Group Buy. Now, Center did the polite thing of offering solder PCBs before it shipped. However, he offered these in such a way that it was not possible to replace your solder PCB, your hot swap PCB with a solder PCB. You needed to pay an additional $50 to $60 plus shipping to get that. And as much as I wanted a solder PCB, I didn't have $60 at the time. What would have been really nice is to offer a solder PCB without forcing me onto hot swap. Oh, look, we actually got a keycap off, and that's a whole switch. And this is why I will very often tell people not to buy hot swap. Hot swap is fine if you're buying a board that is going to be dedicated for breaking in switches. Otherwise, hot swap is a terrible, terrible idea for longevity. Every time I do this and I remove a switch by accident, I am wearing out the sockets. Those sockets are not going to last as long as you think they are. Especially with a board like this, where if I have to unscrew it, I have to go on a wild goose chase to find where the screws are. Now, if I remember correct, oh, there's a screw in there. Okay, we found one screw. I'll show you how well hidden the screws are. They're exceptionally well hidden. You guys see it yet? Way in there. Just under the bottom of the O key. Very sneaky, very sneakily hidden. And that's good. This is how you do screwless. Now, we're not talking about the internals yet, but we may as well talk about the plate as I just take this apart. And we can count how many caps actually come off properly and how many switches just get completely removed from their socket. So this is a skeleton plate. There is very, 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 very little plate. And you know what would have been great? To have more plate. Because if we had more plate, then the switches, okay, would actually clip into place. Now, I've tried this with GATX, GAT Pro, and MX Blacks, and those are basically the de facto switches. If those switches do not clip into the plate well, then you have failed at your plate design. Okay? So from an objective perspective, this is a terrible plate. It's basically 99% air. Now, not only does that affect the ability of switches to clip in properly and stay where they should be, especially on a hot swap board, that also impacts acoustics, okay? And the thing about acoustics is if you're gonna have random cuts everywhere, you're gonna be raising the pitch of your board. So when I originally got this keyboard, normally I will never, ever, ever build with foam, and I will never build hot swap if I have the choice, but I didn't have the choice because I was initially basically, well, what's the word? I was basically extorted into buying the thing I wanted, which I didn't do. But anyway, I don't generally buy hot swap because it's problematic to deal with. Unless, for example, I just had a dedicated break-in board that was a TKL, a standard TKL, not something like this. It's nice to have, I guess. But, you know, soldering takes about 20 minutes for a TKL, and desoldering takes about 30 minutes. You know, I'd rather spend 15 minutes and have like a pleasant experience over not, essentially. And from a plate perspective, I would never intentionally buy a plate that is, like 95% air. Like you can't even see where the plate is at this point. It's not good from an acoustic perspective, and it's not good from a plate perspective. If we define a plate as an object that is supposed to hold switches in, it holds some of the switches in, but not all of them. All right. Oh no, I was gonna say let's just take apart one side. No, we gotta take apart both sides to be able to actually take it apart. But I do remember that there was a screw right there. And I believe there's a screw right here. But yeah, this thing is incredibly difficult to put together and take apart, for the record, if you haven't noticed. I mean, we're not there yet. Generally, if this was a TKL, I'd flip it over, I would undo 6 screws, and we would be on our merry way. But in this case, you've got to play duck hunt until you find the screws, and then you got to unscrew them. All right, so on the topic of screws, interestingly enough, there's a problem with the screws. Let me just make sure this is the correct size. It is. So the screwless screws that actually hold the board together use a M2.5. Actually, this says 1.5, but it's an M2.5, which is a very, very, very small screw size to be using. Like, look at that. Does this look like the kind of screw that's like meant to hold together a 3-kilo keyboard? Probably not. Not only are they small, some of them don't screw into place. So this is a spot for a screw right here, but I just don't have the screw installed because it would just perpetually spin. Not because I wasn't reaching the bottom case, but because the threads were just very problematic. And I'm not the only one that had the issue with their threads, where the screws would simply just not screw in. You don't need all the screws to hold the case together. However, I would probably feel better if, all the screws that came with my board were usable. That'd be kind of nice. Okay, I see one over here. Oh, I feel like I'm stripping it. Okay, I really feel like I'm stripping it. It's turning, but it's just not coming out. So yeah, we're probably gonna have to go in there with tweezers and fish it out at some point. But yeah, it's one of the more complex boards to put together, not in terms of just like general complex, not in terms of just like it takes a long time, because taking a long time, I guess, is fine to some degree. What is not fine is just the absolute pain in the ass of trying to fish out incredibly small screws, attempting to screw those screws into incredibly, what's the word? Sussy screw taps, where sometimes it'll latch, sometimes it won't latch, and sometimes that thing is never latching. Just put the screw away. So yeah, are we getting there? Oh, that's another screw hole right there. This one is super deep, and I don't think there's a screw in there. Oh wait, is there? I don't think there is. Okay. Oh, all right. So apparently I have 1, 2, 3 screws that I have not installed. By choice, by the way. It was because they literally did not fit. All right, so now that we've removed the absolute bottom, oh, there's the screw. All right, we're gonna fish that out later. So this is the actual case bottom. This is the actual case bottom where the top screws into the bottom, and this screw tap is problematic, this screw tap is problematic, and this screw tap over here is problematic. After speaking to a lot of owners, this screw tab being problematic is pretty much universal, so it just might not be aligned or something. And one of these is not done well. It's a $600 board, okay? It may sound like, I'm being overly critical, but again, it's a $600 board. It's the equivalent of, complaining about something super obvious in a $100,000 car. things like this shouldn't happen. The screw tab should accept the screws without problems. So this is the bottom piece. We can see some cutouts here that look kind of weird. We're going to find out what those do in a little bit. It's just a single piece. It's decently light. It just acts as a back cover so you don't see the screws. Like I said earlier, you can essentially remove the back entirely and still have a functional keyboard. That still works. Like, it doesn't have feet on it, but it essentially is the bottom of a board to some degree. All right, so I guess the next bit is to remove the mid piece. So this is the mid piece. This also screws into the top. The screws on this are much larger. The screws on this are much better. So you might see some pieces of rubber here. And these pieces of rubber go in the little slots on the actual case bottom. I assume this is to fill up dead space, to make sure that there's no weird small points of connection between two pieces of aluminum that would really mess with the acoustics. It's very, very weird having rubber between two pieces of aluminum in a keyboard kit. I've never seen something like that before, but I understand why it's there. Okay, because this piece right here is relatively thin, and if we were to install this without the rubber, then nothing would essentially be holding it and preventing it from, you know, vibrating around. So, okay, I get it. Another thing to note is that these internal screws are actually great. So these are M3s, I believe. And they're knurled, and the quality of the screw is much better than the screws being used to hold in the case bottom. All right, we're getting there. Like, this is the point at which it stops being so complicated to essentially take apart. It's mostly the back plate and dealing with the tiny little screws and fishing them through the plate and trying to, you know, get them to work. That's mostly the issue we're dealing with. All right, we're almost there. Normally, I skip the screwing in my keyboard reviews, but I'm making a point of leaving all the screwing in here just so you can see how complex it is to put something like this together. There's another screw in the middle of the daughter board. The daughter board itself actually has a hole in it, so the screw can go right through it. Yeah. Very weird placement. All right, there we go. The top and the mid piece are no longer together. I can feel it. Yep, got a little bit of wibble wobble. That's good. All right. And let me flip it over. Oops. Sorry, I'm just trying to get all the screws out. There we go. Oh, one more in there. All right, are we good? All right, we're good. Alrighty, so case top comes off first. There we go. And we've got ourselves the plate. Before we get into the plate, let's actually look at the case top. Oop. So, fairly complex machining-wise if you take a look at it. Like, there's a lot more angles, there's a lot more corners, there's a lot more little fiddly things to deal with than you would deal with on a standard board. And this is one of the many reasons why, you know, even though this is a $600 board, I'm not complaining about the price. The price point for this, given the amount of machining, given the amount of design work that went into this, I am totally okay with it. All right. There's a little black dot. Okay. So on the top, we can see where the blockers are. We can see where the mid blocker is, essentially, whatever you call it, that separates the left and the right. And we can see all the gasket mount points. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on this side. You may remember that this side moves less than this side. Is it because it has more mounting points? Probably. Yeah. The gaskets themselves are very soft. You remember when I was showing you how the plate drifts? Well, there's a reason the plate drifts. The plate drifts because this is very, very soft. Look how soft that is. It's very, very soft. It's basically cotton. It's like a very cottony foam. Like if I wanted to, I can make this very, very thin just by pressing it down. So that is the other reason why we have plate drift. Besides that, top case is fairly simple. It's mostly flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 screw holes. I know, weird, odd number. But yeah, like it feels a little bit thin, but that's normal for a top piece for something like this. Its job is to just sit up top. It's not going to do anything. Acoustically, sure, it may, connect the plate sound to the case middle and the case bottom by direct contact, passing through vibrations, but it's fine. All right, and we've got the mid piece, which, to be fair, is the heaviest of the bunch. It's basically the case bottom, but it's technically not the case bottom. So we've got our 2 plates in here. So here's our first plate, it just comes right out. There it is. Let's take out the second. Yep, just comes right out. Very nice. We can just flip these over as we take a look at the case bottom. One thing I will do, though, is disconnect this. All right, there we go. All right, so case bottom, don't mind my fingerprints. Yeah, so we can see where some screws are meant to go through the top, and we can see some spots where the top is meant to be screwed. Sorry, this piece is meant to be screwed into the top. So this, that. Attach this piece to the top, while the other ones are essentially little holes that allow you to connect the assembly to the back plate, essentially. All right, so this thing came with foam. And I may have said this earlier, but normally I never build with foam. But when I originally got this board and I saw the state of this plate, where the plate was 99% air, I decided to build it with foam. Turns out the foam didn't help. If anything, it made it sound worse. Now, I will do my best in the sound test section to give you it'll probably just be ripped off of my stream, a sound test of it with the foam and without the foam, just so you get an idea. Without the foam actually turned out better. Now, I briefly spoke to the creator of this board, the designer, Keep Calm, and he told me that a lot of these design elements were not up to him. For example, going hot swap was not his choice, adding foam was not his choice. And I tried to reach out to him and talk to him about what was actually his choice and what was not his choice, but he hasn't answered me on Discord in 2 weeks. So I figured, let me just get the video out and eventually I'll see if there is a response. The response should be in the later revision of this, the second round or whatever, make a better board. This thing is like 90% of the way there. It could be 100% of the way there quite easily. So comes with foam. I have removed the foam. It came with sub-plate foam as well as sub-PCB foam. So sub-PCB foam sits on the case bottom. Sub-plate foam sits between the PCB and the plate. If you get one of these, don't bother using it. It literally just, it makes it sound more high pitch, which makes absolutely no sense, but it does. It makes it sound more high pitch. All right, so here on the case bottom, we can see all of our gasket mounting points. These are the same gaskets that are on the top. They're very, very soft. They're very, very spongy. As a result, there's very little actually holding the plate in place. The only thing that actually holds the plates in place is the fact that the plate cannot move outside of the plate area. But the gaskets are just there to be there. They're not doing much of anything. They could essentially be replaced with marshmallows at this point, and it would not make a difference. All right, we can see a cutout here for the cables. There's a cable that comes off of the daughter board and goes into the main board. The main board is the one on the right. And then there's a cable that comes off of the main board on the right, connects to the main board on the left. Okay. Here on the case bottom, we see there's a little hourglass right there, and Foxlab X keep calm. Those of you that watch my streams may remember me seeing this, and where's the foam? I don't know where the foam is. I probably threw it out. But I got really, really angry at this on stream because the foam has a cutout so you can see the logo on the inside of the case that you're only going to see for about 2 seconds during a build. And I got really angry at that. It proved that, whoever made that decision prioritized branding over making a good, consistent sounding keyboard. And I was told it was Center that made the choice of putting the foam in. So there you go. Center, stop doing dumb shit like this, please. All right, so essentially the daughter board mounts to the bottom of the mid piece. It's a decent daughter board. There's not much going on there. I see some basic ESD circuitry. It's fine. So that essentially connects to this guy over here. So this guy over here is the main board. We've got the controller right there. It's an ATmega 32U4. I think. Let's find out. It's macro cam time. All right, where are you? It's right there. Let's try and identify that together. What are you? I cannot even identify that. It's so dark. It has to be a small 32U4. All right. Give me a sec. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. This might actually be an ARM MCU. It's relatively rare to see. Okay. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. They're both equally easy to flash. It's just kind of strange. Okay. So we'll move on to the PCB itself. We can see that there's a lot of copper masking, visible traces. It's very over-designed. Not over-engineered, just over-designed. Even the shims, because this is a 1.2 millimeter PCB, even the shims are themed appropriately, which is cool, I guess, if you can. And they've got little, copper mask on them and everything. They look very cute, okay? All of this is very cute, okay? I would have liked if it wasn't hot swap. That would have been great. And, the routing on this is relatively good. I especially like that the left and the right connect via essentially 11 cables, I believe. It's 11 cables between the left and the right hand side. So they're essentially one matrix. However, there are some, some weird spots. Some weird spots where you see something like that. Like, that could have potentially been routed a little bit better. But it's okay. The rest of it is fairly well routed. I mean, given how much attention to detail, and by detail I mean like shininess and like branding and like over the topness, if you're gonna go that hard and attempt to make a PCB this pretty, and then have routes like that, okay, I guess. I don't know. It seems like, running the 100-meter dash and then stopping 95 meters in, basically. So, yeah. It's a PCB. It's two sides. The issue that I have with it is this little connector cable is, one, not long enough, and 2, there is nothing actually keeping either side connected. So with enough force, a lot of force, I don't even want to damage my cables. But there is nothing actually holding the cables in. If you were to pull these apart, they would get pulled apart. And if you're trying to assemble your board, and you're not super careful, you may actually disconnect one side or the other. As a matter of fact, during my builds, I had to check multiple times at every step to make sure, okay, do both sides still work? Okay, put the next piece on. Do both sides still work? Okay, put the next piece on. Do both sides still work? Okay. So yeah, as a result, I may have pushed them in so hard I might be damaging something at this point, but hey, may as well. All right, last thing is, okay, last thing is obviously the plate. I mean, you can see how little plate there is. Like, it's basically no plate at this point. I've complained about it plenty. I'm going to stop complaining about it. You see what it is. This was not the play. This was not the play. Generally, you go with a plate like this if you're trying to introduce a crazy amount of flex, which, okay, there's some flex, okay? I'm not going to say there's no flex. There is some flex, but that's mostly masked by bounce. Bounce being the entire plate moving up and down, which it does. I can see the entire plate going up and down. Here, I'll give you a macro cam angle of the left side, all right? So flex would be if I press this and only the center goes down. But bounce is if you don't see from pressing and you see the whole plate moving, that's bounce. So that's bounce, just a tiny bit of flex in addition to the bounce. But it is so minuscule, it is so incredibly minuscule that you would not be able to reliably pick it out. I am a flex enjoyer, I enjoy flex, and this was a bad plate choice. At some point, when I have money, I'll get a real plate for this and a better PCB that is solderable, and most of my qualms will be fixed. The fact that those qualms were fixed, except cost additional money as something that should have been an option in the kit, is what really annoys me. So yeah, it's kind of annoying to put together. It's kind of annoying to take apart. You've got to be kind of careful on that topic. Oh, we lost a shim. Okay, well, we're gonna fix a shim. On that topic, there are some like really small gasket pads that you might miss. Like, it seems really obvious now that they're here, but when I initially put this together, I missed, I think, one of these. It was so sneaky that you couldn't tell that there was supposed to be a gasket in there. So sometimes that can happen. Let's get our, there it is. Also, the choice of going with a 1.2 millimeter PCB, for the record, basically also accomplishes nothing, because you go 1.2 millimeter PCB if you're trying to specifically get flex out of it. And considering that I showed you that the amount of flex that you actually get out of this is so incredibly minimal that it may have just been worthwhile to not even bother. All right, now I'll give you final notes, then I'll tell you about typing feel, typing sound, build recommendations. But generally, using this here, let me just put the top on. All right, so generally using this is fine. The escape key placement takes a long time to get used to, because even on an Alice, your escape will probably be here. And naturally on a TKL Alice, your escape is above your tilde. So get ready to press a lot of F1. LZ may have handled this better in terms of where, and also the FLX Virgo. I think both of them handled the F-row better, where the escape was where the escape was supposed to be. However, this, from a visual aspect, the F-row makes a lot more sense. The F-row is actually, cut in the middle of the F-row, which is good. It's honestly great, but I don't know. Either way, you're missing out. This looks great, but when you try to use it, you keep pressing F1, which is kind of annoying. More spacebar support would have been nice. You have no choice of spacebars because, of course, this is hot swap, and I'm locked to a stepped caps lock. And for anyone that's potentially yelling at the screens, but Simon, they sold standard PCBs and plates. Yes, they absolutely did, for money, long after the group buy was finished, like literal days before shipping. And it was either you pay us $50 now or you're not getting what you want. So I don't think that's acceptable. I think an option of, hey, can I just have a solder PCB and plate instead of this garbage? Please? That would have been nice. So yeah. So feel is a little on the stiff side for a gasket due to all the contact points. It's obviously not as stiff as like an actual TGR Alice or any other Alice because reasons. That's not gasket mount. For a gasket mount, this has the tiniest bit of bounce, but you don't really feel it because remember, the gasket mount points are basically just fluffy. They're like this. This is basically the gaskets in this thing. So they're not doing much. You'll get a tiny bit of bounce out of it, but not much. You'll get the teensiest bit of flex out of it, but at no point was it worthwhile going with an air plate and a 1.2 millimeter hot swap PCB. So using it though, very, very comfy. The larger than standard gap when compared to an actual Alice is actually more comfy because with an actual Alice, your hands are closer together, kind of like this. And with this, they're kind of further out. It's a little bit more natural, of like where your hands go, which is pretty good. And like I said at the beginning, the actual tint of the two sides is exactly the same as the Alice, which is very comfy. So a lot of people like it. So not bad. Again, I have so many qualms with this keyboard, but as I said before, I do love this keyboard. It is nice. I'm happy with it. Even with all the problems, I still enjoy this thoroughly. I still think it's worth the price. What I would like to see in round 2 is, please, by God, give us solder PCBs in the kit without having to pay money. A plate that's not 99% air would be really helpful, so my switches could actually stay in the plate. That'd be really nice. Obviously, better bottom row support, because it's very silly that I have a 2U and a 1U. This 1U is completely unused. I could just use a 3U here. 3U is something that's included in a lot of keycap kits now, so why would you not support that on the bottom row? Obviously, standard caps lock would have been nice. Having LED support, like for windowed caps on your scroll, your caps, would be nice. That would be something that would not be on a hot swap board. That'd be on the solder board. The case design overall is fine. Potentially move past these tiny little case screws that are holding the case together and go with bigger ones. And you guys thought I forgot the screw review, but I didn't, okay? I did not. So for reference, this is the screw that attaches the top case to the bottom case. And this is the screw that attaches the mid piece to the top. Okay, so this tiny one right here is the one that you have to struggle with and get through the plate, through the mid piece and into the bottom piece, and then attempt to thread it in there with, good luck with that. So the screws themselves, some are better than the others. Okay, so these are nice and knurled, very nice. They're an acceptable size. Things like this are not an acceptable size. This is the same screw size that is used for stabilizers, okay? I don't want stabilizer-sized screws holding together my case. And I know it's not holding much weight, but just from an ease of use perspective, I don't want to strip things. I don't want to struggle. Just make my build experience easier, please. Okay, so better case screw handling would be great. Potentially not necessarily stiffer gaskets, just less floofy gaskets. You know, uh, realistically, there is an opportunity given the size of the case to actually leave spring this a little bit, so you could have a gasket mount point, which then springs into the PCB. Springs into the plate. That would give your plate a lot more bounce without needing to go 99% air. And a good amount of bounce will happily replace flex and feel just as good. Because if you're trying to get flex out of this, you're not going to get flex out of this. What allows for flex is having a large surface that can be bent. That is what flex is. But when you're dealing with a small surface, like this tiny little plate, you're not going to get much flex out of it. You know, it's like trying to bend a very long rod versus a very short rod. Long rod's going to bend a lot easier. So trying to get flex out of something like this, if that was the initial idea, is a terrible, terrible idea. You will not get flex out of this. So please stop trying and make this a bouncy gasket board instead, like it belongs. Okay. As for the finishing is great. The packaging is atrocious. Please give us a hard case, okay? For the price point of this very large box, which I'm gonna assume was like $10, spend an extra $10, okay, and give us a custom hard case, okay? Spend the $20. Let us have a hard case so we can actually just take this board to the office. Like, I love this board. I just have to like wrap it around in a t-shirt and bubble wrap and a microfiber cloth and pray to God it doesn't get scratched. Why? All right, and then finally, all this, like, it works. Is it absolutely necessary? That's up to the designer to figure out on round 2. And I think that's pretty much it. So in terms of my build recommendations, if you're going to get around one of these, I initially built mine with GAT-X with all the foam, and it was terrible. Please, 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 for the love of God, do not put the foam in. It's not going to make it sound like it makes other boards foamed up sounding, okay? Normally, filling a board with foam makes the board sound full of foam. This absolutely does not, because it's so little foam and it kind of interferes with the internal acoustics of the case in a bad way. If you put foam in this, it will sound higher pitched. So if for some reason you want it to sound more Korean sounding and less Western sounding, fine, go for it. But otherwise, avoid the foam. Absolutely, absolutely get the solder plate in PCB, because hot swap is very nice, but with a plate like this where switches will just come out when you're trying to pull out keycaps, that is a terrible, terrible experience. So get a solid PCB for this, get a solid plate for this. Lubed switches, milky top housings do very well. Sound signature is relatively good. It sounds like a decent keyboard, you know, without the foam. I've put PBT on it. You could absolutely go ABS on this. ABS with milky top GATs or full milky GATs, like GAT Pros. That would be good. ABS caps on Cherry, if you lube them, sure. But it's kind of going to get a little bit too high pitch. It's going to sound a little bit too Korean. And at that point, just go all out, go DCS caps on spring swapped MX Blacks lubed with, 107, and then put all the foam in it. That way it's going to sound incredibly Korean, if that's what you're into. But if you want a nice, fuller Western sounding sound, then you want thickly lubed GAT Pros or other milky tops and some good PBT on it. Please, for the love of God, do not use JWK on this. Do not use Texty. Do not use any of the meme brands. Please don't use them, because even things that are Cherry spec go in there and get pulled out, and go in there and get pulled out, okay? So imagine how much worse it's going to be with switches that are not the correct spec. So yeah, that is the entirety of my recommendations. We'll do a typing test, I'll do with foam and without foam. Again, I apologize, it will be from the stream because I can't find the foam. And then we'll have a summary. Summary time. I know I covered all of my thoughts, my very complex thoughts, throughout the video, but first and foremost, it's an expensive board, but it's not overpriced, okay? It's well done for its price, for the amount of complexity, for the attention to detail, for the amount of work that went into it. Absolutely, absolutely worth the price. So I know a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, oh my God, this is so expensive. It's not, for what it is. I personally love the layout. I love TKL. I love Alice. This was an opportunity for me to finally have a TKL Alice, because having dedicated arrows and dedicated navigation is amazing. This is an amazing office board with no way to take it to the office because it doesn't come with a hard case. That would have been really nice. That's something I'd really like to see in the future that really detracts from the value of this. The wrist rest is very sweet. It's very cool. It's utterly and completely useless because it's ice cold and you can't use it if you're wearing jewelry or a watch, because then you're going to scratch the hell out of it. I would love to see potentially polycarbonate or ABS or resin in the future with a piece of aluminum under it if you really want to like show off the colors, because it is gorgeous. And if you're displaying the board, the wrist rest looks amazing. But if you're using the board, it is completely and utterly useless. The usability of the board is great. The front height is about the same as the Alice, even though it's a much bigger board, so very well done. The escape key placement, kind of weird, especially for muscle memory, especially for TKL. We all know our escape is above our tilde. This one is not. Above your tilde is the F1, so get prepared for a lot of help menus to pop up when you least expect it. The plate and PCB that I personally got were atrocious. Please do not get the hot swap PCB and do not get the skeleton plate. Switches will fly out for no reason, and it sounds kind of bad. And I know that's a very subjective thing, but it could sound so much better, so much more full, so much more consistent if it actually had a plate that was not 99% air. Firmware support on it was good. USB port is good. Finishing is solid. I really, really like the board. I think this is a board that can very definitely benefit from a round 2 with some fixes. Some assembly fixes, better choice of materials for plate and PCB, better gaskets, because the gaskets in here are very airy and not doing much of anything. I want more full gaskets that like actually hold on to my plate so my plate doesn't drift around for no reason. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's a fantastic board with so many problems, and I still love it. So that's how good it is. It's very nice to type on. If you like Alice layout, absolutely go for it. If you like Alice layout and like you really struggle with HHKB arrows or any 60% arrows, absolutely go for it. And if you just like how it looks, absolutely go for it. It's a fantastically designed board that, had some logistical poor decisions, essentially. But the design itself is pretty good. The only thing wrong with the design itself is the escape key placement. And to be fair, as long as you get used to it, it's fine. Typing on an Alice takes getting some used to anyway. So reprogram your brain to reach further for the escape, and you're pretty much good to go. Given the chance, would I buy this board again? Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely buy this board again. I would spend all that money again, and I still would not pony up for the solder PCB and the proper plate, because the way in which it was offered was... So yeah, if you see one of these for group by price, or there are extras around group by price, go for it. If you see there's around 2 of this, keep an eye out for the list of fixes that I would like to see, and then compare that. And if you see a lot of the fixes have been done, then amazing, absolutely go for it. And if you see that none of the fixes have been done, then maybe tread a little bit lightly. So yeah, that's my video. Thank you everyone that watches my videos. Thank you everybody that gets in the Discord. Thank you to all the patrons that really help out, especially with making YouTube videos, because on average I spend 5+ weeks with a keyboard before forming my opinions and making my notes. So it's a very long and drawn out process, and the support really helps. So again, if you like the video, give me a thumb, and if you dislike the video, then get in Discord and DM me and tell me, Simon, I hate your videos. All right. See ya, boys.